Hey, how's it going, guys? JJ Wilson is here, and for this recording or video, I wanted to talk about the anime series I recently watched and got through with the series Angolmois Record of Mongol Invasion. Now, before we begin, I'd like to give a special shout out to Azrael KW for recommending me the anime, and so I took a gander at it, saw the first episode, it's like, okay, I see where this is coming from. So we just got through playing Ghost of Tsushima, and now we already have a anime that came well before the game, and it talks about, or at least it's loosely touching on, what happened with the Japanese fighting against the Mongols that invaded their territory, their land. But this is basically on Tsushima Island, and for those that don't know, it's a island sitting in between the Sea of Japan, like between Japan and Korea. And so this is where the setting of the anime is taking place. And we have a bunch of exiles in a boat, basically. This is how it starts off. We have a bunch of exiles, and they're from the Kamakura prefecture, or the Kamakura shogunate. And the main guy, the protagonist, his name is Kuchi Jinzaburo. So he's a former samurai retainer of the Kamakura shogunate, and who was eventually betrayed by the shogunate for, I forget exactly. I think it has something to do with the transgression that he did, and a rival retainer within the shogunate didn't like it, and so he was charged. His old lord that he was serving got killed, and next thing you know, he's in exile. So he's on a boat with all these other guys, and next thing you know, they attack the very guys that were sending him out to Tsushima Island. They find out why they were being sent there. The real reason: there's an invasion that's going to happen in Japan. So thanks to the princess Teruhi, who we see in the first episode, she is the daughter of the Soul Clan, which is like one of the top clans in the entire island. So her father kind of put her in charge of, keeping the exiles in check and telling them what they need to do in order to protect the people there. And of course, most of the guys didn't like that. And so over time, through various trials and tribulations, these guys, they eventually aid the Tsushima people. Some had their own motives. Some people were questioning Kuchi Jinzaburo's motives on why he was doing what he was doing. It's like some people was like, well, he just kind of likes the thrill. He likes the thrill of fighting in the war. But this guy has a lot more to it than just a samurai, man. He truly is a leader in every sense of the word. You see that in every episode. He's a great surveyor. He knows how to lay out. He knows like geography very well. He knows how to lay out minuscule plans of a territory, especially a castle or like a village of some type. Like, he's able to figure it all out, and he can put it. He uses stones and dirt, and he can put it in various spots, and it'll look exactly like that place. And people see that as like, wow, man, this guy's good. So he's very innovative in that sense. He's kind of like ahead of his time when it comes to strategy, especially when it comes to battle strategy. And he's already fought in so many other fights and stuff, so it's pretty crazy. Another cool thing about Jinzaburo is his sword style, his martial art. I think it's called the Gike style. And so with the Gike style, he learned that, and apparently it was passed down from another famous Japanese samurai named Yoshitsune Miyamoto. And it turns out Yoshitsune, he was fighting on behalf of a young emperor, and he's in this anime, and his name is Emperor Antoku. And it was said in history that he died at the age of 6. He drowned, but in this anime he actually survives, and he's living in seclusion now in Tsushima Island, and he's actually the great grandfather of Princess Teruhi. So I thought that was crazy once I found that out. You'll meet him in the middle of the season. So that's Jinzaburo, and so he's accompanied by these other exiles. Some of them are pretty tough, like the big guy Oni Takamaru, and there's an archer that was pretty cool. I liked him a lot, Hitari. And they had a scout by the name of, what was his name? His name was Amushi. So he was like a little ninja scout or whatever. Not exactly a ninja, but he could like jump on trees and stuff like one, and he could see where the enemy was coming from, where the Mongols were coming from, the Goryeo dynasty, which are the Koreans, and the Jurchens, and they're like the people before the Manchus. So if you heard about the Manchu people, for a time they used to conquer China, like right after, a little bit after the Ming dynasty, and the Ming dynasty before that they took over after the Mongols did. So that's kind of like the order of the Chinese rule in a sense. But yeah, so with some of the Mongols, some of the enemies that these guys encounter, one of them was named Urian Ede. I think he was Mongol, and at one point they were trying to take over a castle, Kaneda Castle, and while they were doing that, they encountered the princess, and he was like romantically attracted to her, but he couldn't get her. So ultimately he wasn't able to get the princess. And so he was a good commander. He just wasn't as experienced as Jinzaburo was. And then you had another guy who was very, very strong, and he ended up killing Onatakamaru. His name was Louis Fuheng. He's a Jurchen, and he fights with a spear. But this guy, he's the one with the red hair, and man, he encountered Jinzaburo a few times, and they actually did fight. And by the end of the show, they do fight. But lucky for him, spoiler alert, he gets his life spared, but I won't say exactly how. You'll have to watch the last episode to find that out. And there's a couple of other generals. Han Dagu, who's actually a Korean. He's in this anime, and he's actually a real historical figure. So he's in there, and then their lead commander his name is Hinduin. Okay, so those are some of the enemies that they encounter. And going back to Urian Ede, going back to him, he encounters one of the exiles, Shiraishi. Now Shiraishi, unfortunately, for his own reasons, he ended up betraying his people, although he didn't want to do it entirely. He was just trying to survive, and you can tell, like, as they were going through the plans of betraying the Japanese by invading Kaneda Castle, he kind of regrets it in a sense a little bit, but he's like, well, I might as well keep going, because once you betray once, you can't go back. That was his mentality. And so once Jinzaburo found out, he's like, let's do this. Let's fight. Let's see who can be the better fighter, who can be the better survivor. Right? So, yep. I mean, that did happen that also happened in the Ghost of Tsushima series. So, unfortunately, not surprised to see a guy, turn coat against the Japanese, but oh well, I guess it comes with the territory. So yeah, overall, it was a good story, I think, with the show. I think one of the biggest things that I think they could have done better was the animation. They tried to do it in a way that was like watercolor. If you could tell, like, it saw this watercolor paper in the background in every episode, and that kind of made me scratch my head. I'm not sure what they were trying to do there. And I think the fights could have been a little bit more fleshed out. Because there's another anime series I'm going to talk about, another samurai series, that I think the animation and the fighting was so good that I think a lot of other samurai type shows need to focus on that kind of animation, that fluidity when it comes to battles. And I think Angolmois kind of missed the mark on that. So that's probably one of the biggest cons I'll take away from it. But the story itself, very solid. I may actually check out the manga for it. I might actually do that. But yeah, so this anime came out in 2018, and I'm not sure if they ever had plans to do a sequel. Now I forget the exact studio's name that did it too. I think it's Kakodawa or something like that. I have to go back and look. I might even put in the description box, so that way you guys know what studio it's from. But yeah, pretty good show. I definitely recommend others checking it out if you can. And so this is JJ Wilson. I'm gonna head on out, and tell me what are the animes that you kind of saw that's similar to this that might strike my fancy, and I'll see you all later.